Midweek update. What an interesting time to be alive and talking about Missouri politics. Um, all right, we're gonna have a special time. We have a couple special guests. We're not gonna have them in here. We're gonna have them on audio. We're gonna old school this job here. I'm gonna bring you Sheriff Dave Marshak, and then the man that wrote the book on internet trolling and stalking and harassment, the one and only John Combest, the man who, if you've ever wondered how we come up with topics for this week in Missouri politics, it is usually like that afternoon when people have texted me two or three times what we're going to talk about. I go through the headlines. It is different. I have to click now the individual day, but I go through the headlines of johncombest.com where I read the headlines every morning, and that's where we find our topics. The man behind John Combest, but more importantly, we have our very own little Wash U Bear coming in, John Combest. Yeah, no kidding. We're talking about the subject of his book a little later. Let's talk about so tomorrow we're gonna do a tip sheet breakdown. We're gonna bring in James Owen, talk about solar and how he ticked off Senator Cindy O'Laughlin. Um, I don't know how he got on the bad list. I'm gonna find out because it's interesting to me because everything that Cindy O'Laughlin does to me is just interesting. Like I really don't have like a gnawing like love or hate about it. It's just interesting. The Senate was better, but if they would, it was hard to top it. But just she's interesting because I think she kind of says what she thinks. So I'm going to find out how James got on the list there, and what the issue is about. I'm not an expert in solar, but I'm interested, and I like James. James, a good old boy. We'll put the link up to our podcast. About once a year, I'll do his podcast. We talk about solar a little bit. We mostly just talk about hogs, dogs, and logs and whatever's going on. So James will be in here tomorrow, but today. So yesterday. Oh, I guess it was what a week ago, maybe. So those of you watching, if you're into politics, you'll have heard of this concept. It's called a charter school. Essentially, you have kids that made the football team in high school, and then you have kids that didn't. And it is probably true that some of us that might have made varsity sports might have, what's the word, Kelton? Picked on.
That sounds like a good
I'm
word.
glad you didn't say bullying. He's picked on the kids that didn't maybe make it. And, some of those are bitter. And so they come with the idea to have a charter school. And look, I've always felt like there's a very, very, very intelligent person that is kind of the head of the lobbying effort for charter schools. And she's very sincere. And you got to tell most people in the charter school game are here, just like Mike Moon said, to get paid. But in the city of St. Louis, look, a lot of things are hard, right? There's a lot of stuff that doesn't go great. And one of the things that doesn't go great is schools. But it's one of those things where like crime doesn't go great. There's a lot of things that are a struggle in urban cities. Schools are also one of them. It's always been funny to me to think that, well, so the streets are crumbling, there's crime everywhere, every business is closed, everybody that can afford to move out's moved out. Some of the schools are gonna be great. That's not real. But that's one thing you could point to and kind of say, here's the problem for the government to handle. And most people don't like accountability. They don't like to look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, that was on me. So they blame schools. Um, I personally think that where the schools have failed by the state's own standards, trying things is fine. The problem I've always had with charter schools is this. So what you do is the most conservative people in the state, or the people that claim to be the most conservative, most of the time it's just how do I get the most money for me, and I get that by claiming to be conservative, but I'll do things that aren't. So you're looking at the situation, you're thinking, okay, we have very conservative people like a Wayne Wilcott on the Neelyville School Board. Wayne Wilcott does a hell of a job on the Neelyville School Board. If you're going to call Wayne Wilcott cut woke, he's probably gonna take you out. Bad idea. You better have your dukes up. You start calling Wayne woke. He has the camo hat that's broke in, like he's worn it. You know what I'm saying? Wayne tucks in his t-shirt to go to town. Wayne's a good guy, hell of a guy. West Butler County, and does a great job on the school board. Um, so you take Wayne Wilcott and say, okay, we have a problem with schools, so we're going to take the most conservative people in the state and give a bunch of red tape and a bunch of regulations and micromanage them. Then we're going to go find the most liberal people in the state, and we're going to take all the stuff away from. We're going to take all the regulation rules away from them, let them run wild, and then we're going to call that conservative. And I personally think you ought to try things. When something's failed, trying things is a good idea. It is a good idea. Business is a good idea. Period. I'm a fan of trying stuff. Um, However, when you're trying things, you got to keep in mind that you got to keep in mind you know, I think that you've seen some charter schools fail and not do that much better. And again, I look at the charter school. If it's in a place that's failing on a lot of other metrics, why would that school succeed? Same as the public school. It just kind of drains it. And in a lot of this state, they don't have enough money to have multiple schools and stuff. Um, some things, the math works in Chesterfield on some things it doesn't work other places. Tell a Chesterfield person that they'll never understand. So what you see then is you saw with COVID, everybody said schools are woke, and I think they had some problems. I mean, I think there was some issues with schools. But my thing is like show them what the issues are, and then let them change it. And I think you saw some like in Francis Howell. I honestly think Francis Howell was a little more, maybe considerably more liberal than the people that live there. It's the St. Charles County District. They organized and they won the elections. Now they're going to have the chance to bring it back in line. That's kind of how things work. So I've had a good time with the charter school people, as you might know. So a while back there was there's a guy who's like the head of the charter school thing, and the charter school thing is supposed to be this real conservative big deal, right? But it's but instead of it being a big conservative, like if Kit Bond was over it, or if a man's man came in, and instead it's this little tiny guy who isn't Regis Philbin, but he dresses like with his shirt the same color as suit, and I always think it's so funny to watch these people go, oh, schools are woke, 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 and then they tried out this little fella who's like from California, and literally everything that everybody in this state would just vomit back up. But this somehow like the guy, and he gets a little slogan: "If you're a cuck, you'll repeat it for him." Um, and so he's like is hilarious to look at and see all these people saying, "Oh, conservative, conservative, conservative," and they try out this little tiny fella. And he comes out and a little squeaky voice says some stuff about I don't even know what's the call of the cuck. Y'all, I can't remember.
I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I didn't write it down either. But so then obviously when you take off all the red tape, it's not just religious people that get to play too. Um, and you'll notice the private school people, homeschools want nothing to do with this because they know there'll be red tape affiliated. At some point, government gives you money. So of course, he came. There was a story in Arizona about how funded by school vouchers, a middle school for LGBTQ youth to open up in Phoenix. Now, okay, fine. That's what you want to do. That's what's going to happen here. And some people have said that. I think there's some rural Missouri boys, and maybe even one rural Missouri boy from West Butler County said, if you do this, you're not going to get your total like super Republican-y stuff. You're going to get this. That's what you're going to get because in Kennett they like their school. You know what I mean? So then I of course made fun of him because it is hilariously funny. I mean, would you let that guy watch your kids? I mean, I doubt he has kids of his own, right? I mean, you know, but I don't know that if you're interviewing like babysitters, I mean, does that guy make it in the house even? You know he doesn't. So we had a little fun with him. He also doesn't wear socks, which is concerning. And then these the little guy started coming out and saying, well, your kids go to a private school. Let me just tell you. Millie attended the Blair Oaks State Champions, Kelton, the state champions of football. Blair Oaks out in Wardsville. Gussie's mother wanted him to have get confirmed. So he went to St. Peter's right here by the Capitol. Nice school, did a great job. I have no qualms about it. The difference is I'm not asking Kelton to pay for him to go to St. Peter's, right? He can go to Wardsville. He may this year. But if he wanted to go to St. Peter's to get confirmed, to get a specialized education about Catholic Church, which I find to be a fine thing. They're great folks at St. Peter's. I don't think, Kelton, do you want to pay for Gussie's tuition to go to a special school?
Not really, no.
Not even like a $10, $5 or something?
I'm a little broke.
Well, Kelton's broke, so there you are. And I'm not really asking Kelton to pay for it. If I want that extra piece of education, that's on me. There's a public school you can go to, find one, and we go from there. Then I'm like, well, how do these freaks know? How does that guy know where my kid goes to school, right? I don't know where his kid goes to school, but he probably doesn't have like a kid of his own. We both know. But I mean, I don't know. Do you want that guy know where your kid goes to school? So I was like, what the hell? What kind of weirdo pedos are these people? And of course, I've dealt with this from Greitens. It's the East Coast people like him and Greitens. They pay for these troll farms to tweet you. And I feel kind of bad for him because guys, if you think You think you're even a third of what I've dealt with in my career? Wow, little guy. And I offered. I was like, listen, he's called me a hypocrite, which is offensive to me. Not really, but you know. And I said, come on out to West. Come on out to real Missouri. Don't stop in the cities. Come on out. Probably put your pair of socks on, but come on out off the interstate, and I'll meet you anywhere you want. And we can probably solve our problem. I got no problem with that. I've been whipped many times, never quite by a old fellow like that, which would be hard to live down back home. I'd probably spend a I couldn't go home for a while, but people would forgive and forget. But we'd see. And my deal would be, I always thought if I was going to have my ass whipped by a California, it'd be Alex Tuttle, not this guy, right? I mean, um, but if but we'll see what happens. And probably be buddies afterwards. This is kind of how things work amongst men. I doubt Corey knows. He's probably well versed in that. But I'm like, so how do you know where my kid goes to school? So I got to thinking. I mean, and so they pay these people to tweet. And fellas, I appreciate everybody that takes time to follow me and tweet at me. And if I respond like Rhea Camila, I love Camelia Peterson. She's wonderful. I'll go back and forth with her a little bit because I like her. Adam Bone, Bad of the Bone. I find Adam sometimes fun. I like to talk to him in person, but I'll go back and forth with somebody I like on the internet a little bit. But as you can tell, I'm not a big, let me just go back and forth with you. And especially if you don't put your name on stuff. I have no time for that. Do it all day long. Troll me, write all your stuff. I almost feel bad because it's just, if you're trying to find my like heart and soul, boy, it's going to take a larger expedition party than a bunch of people on Twitter. But good for you. So I decided I'd reach out because I mean, I've got this weirdo. Would you want this guy internet stalking your son? What do you do in this situation? So I'm going to call my buddy Dave Marshak. Let me see what Dave's up to. Dave is the outstanding sheriff of Jefferson County. Couldn't be a better dude.
Good afternoon.
Is this Sheriff Marshak?
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. How you been, buddy?
Doing good. Great to hear from you.
How's the good folks in Jeffco?
Everyone's doing quite well. Safe community and no outside influences. How's that?
Oh, see, he knows exactly how to say that. Like I know exactly what he's saying without him having to say it. That's why he's a successful politician and literally the king of Jefferson County. Now, I got to ask you this question. I ask everybody: where does real Jeffco start? Okay,
Wow.
that was a mean question. We all know, the rest of us besides Dave knows there's Arnold and there's like Jeffco, like the Elks Lodge down in Crystal City and things. I got a problem. I'll run it past you if you got a second.
Let's hear it.
And thank you for joining us here on the Midweek Update, brought to you by United Fiber and the good folks at the Courtyard here in Marriott here in Jeff City. Do you stay at the Courtyard?
Listen, every time you try to push me there, they're always booked.
Man, I'm telling you, Randolph, what's up, dude? You got to add on to this thing. I mean,
This is Scott. Listen, this is your marketing because every time I go there to try to book a room, and I'm there several times throughout the years, the rooms are already booked up with people attending meetings at the Capitol and lobbyists. I think you've done well to represent them.
We got to text me. I'll see if Randolph can maybe put squirrel one back for you. Damn. I mean, I hear this all the time. People are like, I'll try to get in the car. It's too booked. We're gonna have to get Kelton. We're gonna have to go over there and talk to those guys. I mean, that place is constantly packed.
We got to figure something out.
I know.
Look, I've been a Hilton Honors Reward member for quite some time.
Yeah.
That's where I usually stay. But I'll tell you, I've been to a couple of meetings and a couple of fundraising events over at the Marriott. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's took me a while. There's one old gal finally got me onto these rewards things. And so I've got the app and stuff. It actually is kind of, most of that stuff I don't do. Like I do the Menards 11% thing. I do save my receipts on that. But that's about it. But the hotel stuff, I've slowly got in. I like it because you can check in without having to check in. You can just use your phone. Now, I'm a big fan of that.
Nice.
So I got this old boy. He's kind of a tiny little fella from California. He's sort of been internet stalking my kid. And I assume that you have to deal with this every so often. Gussie's a hell of an old boy. You've met Gussie several times.
Yeah.
But I don't really want some California dude. I mean, how do you know you have a problem with weirdos from California kind of stalking your kids?
Well, the problem with the internet, of course, is in your case, some yuppie 1,800 miles away can type whatever he wants online and suffer a few consequences. Back in the day, you say some of those things online, somebody punch you in your face.
Yep.
So for a law enforcement, the challenge is what is that gray area between harassment and the First Amendment, particularly when it's online chatter? I think for us, you have to look at intent and context. And, is the post intended to threaten, or is it just to kind of get your goat a little bit,
I think it's probably the second one.
To intimidate you a little bit,
I don't think this old boy would be much of an intimidator. I mean, he's about, he might be 100 pounds if he's holding, 5 pounds of nickels. But it's kind of creepy, and he kind of, like I said, number one, California, red flag. Number two, no socks. I understand if you're going to a swimming hole or something, but no socks in public.
Clearly, there's a problem there. He doesn't wear socks.
Buy some. Yeah, seriously. I don't know who's at the airport or something. Quentin ought to be handing out socks or something over. And then you got some little saying that if you're just cuck enough, you'd say. But good Lord, I can't imagine. So I guess the thing would be, at some point you just have to say, well, just come on down, fella, right? And see how big old boy you are.
Look, I think the more you engage in hot button issues, the more likely it's going to be to increase activity to those people that really take an interest in what you're saying. You specifically, or while you're not elected, you are definitely a public figure. As opposed to maybe a private person trying to mind their own business. You have influence, and you have opinions that you share. And certainly sharing some of those opinions definitely will draw more criticism and more trolls, internet trolls specifically. And I find that the more I do online, the more type of communication I get from those people as well.
Yeah, that is one thing. To be honest with you, I've dealt with like major league internet trolls from the Griton stuff. Them old boys, it wouldn't make it hard to use your phone because you had to kind of search it. But I've always thought, just turn your phone off. It's that big a deal, right? It's not that big a deal. For other folks that, when you got weirdos from California coming in and kind of socklessly stalking your kids, I just wonder where that line was. That makes sense where the line is. I don't think he's to that line yet, but he's definitely the line of what a weirdo. Good Lord.
I would agree. He clearly has either he or followers.
It may be they or it. I'm not sure what pronoun he actually goes by. I know some girl Corys, but they generally wear socks.
Spend some time doing a little research. Look, there's so much information that's available online these days in terms to track people down. It's easy to try and gather some basic information about family members and share it. As a law enforcement officer, believe me, I've encountered people, who said, well, hey, I would like to share some more information. If you want, I can go by your house at blah, blah, blah address. Oh. And so those things are done to intimidate you a little bit. I find most of them very insignificant.
Yeah, Lisa Panette chimed in. She's right. It's the school choice groomers. I've seen that. Well, I tell you, Sheriff, I'm going to send you the picture just so you can have it on. Because I think Mary Elizabeth knows this old boy. And she's got a whole basketball team of kids. And so you can kind of keep an eye out for it. But I sure appreciate the visit. Thank you, sir.
Hey, listen, I don't think some Californiite's going to come to rural Missouri, as you say,
and
pick some fight with some hillbilly in Missouri and make its way 1,800 miles. I think you're probably okay.
I think it might be an uncomfortable trip for the old boy.
Agree.
I appreciate it, Sheriff. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Bye. Well, there you go. That's the sheriff. That's the law right there. Oh, dadgummit. If he's watching still, I meant to tell him I have a gift for him. Look at this Stein. I'll take a draw out of this. This is the Stein. Dadgummit. I meant to send this to him. Sheriff, for you. I'm gonna come over and give it to you. I think on Thursday. Stein of knowledge right there. Look at the cop on it. It's got a top. Anheuser-Busch logo prominently displayed. This bud's for you. Good stuff. It kind of wets your whistle a little bit for your skull. All right, now while we're talking here, I do have one more person I'll bring you. So if you're ever making fun of a charter school dork, and they start kind of stalking your kids. I know an expert in the subject who actually wrote the book on stalking, harassment, and trolling, a guide to recovering and rebuilding after online attacks. John Combest. Let's see if John can join us and visit for a second here.
Hello.
John Combest?
How you doing, Scott?
Simple Hillbilly. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing quite well.
I appreciate you joining us here. Just so you know, we're here on the midweek update with our folks chiming in.
Right.
You're the author of Stalking, Harassment, and Trolling, a guide to recovering and building after online attacks, right?
That's right.
But really, folks are going to know you from that, but they're really going to know you from johncombest.com. I told folks at the top of the show, when we're doing This Week in Missouri Politics topics we're going to talk about, there's one place I go on Thursday afternoon. I roll down through johncombest.com and hit the headlines, and it is the best synopsis, especially if you've got a sense of humor, and you have to, and the best jokes anyway, like anything, are specialized. If you want a good rundown of the headlines from Missouri politics, since how long have you done that for? 98? 02?
Since 01.
01.
The end of 01.
Damn,
Yes.
my entire professional life. Mark Richardson, my first boss. I got a picture of him right here. My first boss back in the day that kind of got me into politics. He told me about johncombest.com and said it's a place that he went to kind of get the full rundown of what was in the news that day. And I have went ever since daily. I have not missed a day. If I have, I've been on vacation. You can catch up. They're a real good rundown to start your day. And you have to be kind of well read to get the jokes. If you're not well read, some of the jokes will go over your head. And if you have a sense of humor, you could get triggered, right?
Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. I always appreciate the platform, and you even run some of my columns on occasion.
Oh, they're so good. Oh my! I have had the best reaction. It's so sensitive I can't even say her name. The best reaction I've ever had. I've got it before we get into California, Corey. I was talking to the president one day, the commander in chief, and they went down to the Capitol, and a person that was referencing one of his columns come up, and she came up to me, and this is like 2 weeks after the thing had ran, and I'm talking to the president, and I assume she wants to be introduced to the president, right? Well, because she has to speak to me, and I'm like, oh sure, because now I'm thinking I'm a big dog, right? I get to introduce this lady to the president. Obviously, I'm talking about President Bill DeWitt of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
Trump could have been there too. I mean, nobody would have noticed because Bill DeWitt was there. So she's like looking at me, and I'm like, okay, I got you. So I'm like, Representative, this is the president, Mr. President, this is the representative, and she was mad about the column, which was so a compliment and took me so off guard. I could not believe that she had a chance to talk to the president, and she was like, "Want to talk about your column?"
It sounds like she should read my book. Sounds like she should take a deep dive into my book.
When I called you this morning, I was going to use this as a prop, and I'm gonna find a place to put this in our backdrop. So I bought another one, and I'm gonna buy another one even and send. That's what I'm gonna do.
Thank you.
Well, John, I need some advice.
Sure.
So I ain't from the city. I ain't from Chesterfield, and I actually made the varsity team. So charter schools are sort of a foreign concept to me. Also, I think Black lives do matter, but I don't know, and I think you ought to be nice to trans folks and gay people, but it's kind of a different world out there. You know what I mean? Oh, this is on behalf. You'll appreciate this, John. I'm getting a phone call from the one and only David Barkley. So on behalf of everybody in Missouri politics right now, I'm going to send that to voicemail. You all should feel some sort of release and affirmation by what I just did. Because if you can get him on the phone, good luck to you. So I was kind of making fun of this California Corey, the head of the guru of the charter school world. And apparently he's a little sensitive feller. He kind of got his dander up. And I mean, I ain't really worried about Millie for obvious reasons with him. One, she's probably got a weight advantage on him, and she's 14, probably weighs 90 pounds. But also, just right worry about that. But Gussie, somehow they found out where Gussie went to school. And listen, I'll be honest with you, John. I guess I'll ask. He go to a Catholic school, wanted to go till he got confirmed. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but it's a nice ceremony that I've seen Millie went to. So would you kick in and pay for him to go, John? Could you give me $20-$30 something?
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't carry a lot of cash on me.
Yeah, Kelton wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Look, I decided to pay the bill myself. I didn't need Mike Parson or you or Kelton paying the bill. But my concern was, you got an old boy, little skinny, kind of creepy looking guy from California. First of all, that's the first red flag, right? California. What the hell? Why would you be knowing where my kid goes to school? Then he don't wear socks, and then he kind of dresses like he wears the same colored shirt as the suit, kind of like Johnny Cash, except maybe like a drag Johnny Cash. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of wondering, since you're the expert, the person you actually literally wrote the book, at what point do you kind of get worried when a suspected pedo is kind of stalking your kid online?
Well, I think the first important step is one that you just took at the beginning of the show, which is having a conversation with law enforcement. Look at it really, protecting the physical security of your family is a good first place to start. Yeah. And beyond that, Scott, it's anytime somebody's getting attacked, like you've been through it with the Crichton's trolls, and you're going through it right now.
Well, those are like big league trolls. These are like not even AAA trolls. These are like rookie leagues. These are A-ball trolls.
And I mean, contextually, think about a year ago what we were all dealing with Eric Crichton's trolls talking about, slash and burn. Yeah. And it looked real serious a year ago. And look at where we are today. But if you think about anybody that's going through what you're going through, Scott, you look at three things. Number one, Scott, you ask yourself, do you feel like you need the approval of these type of internet trolls?
Oh, I'd be damn worried if skinny Californians started proving to me. I would have to I'd actually probably, there'd be an intervention and you'd probably get invited to it and we'd have to decide, what have I done to find myself in this awful spot? Thank you.
That's the first one. So, I mean, it sounds like you passed that first test, which is you don't need these folks' approval. And the second one is, do you feel like you're somehow got to control them or they're going to control you? You talked about, they have a mantra. Do you feel like if you went to one of their meetings, you would be compelled to repeat a school choice mantra, or do you feel like they somehow would control you if you were close to them?
I'm not real big on repeating mantras of any kind. Mm-hmm. Ernie Hayes, the old Cardinals organist, is about the closest that you could get me to kind of go on. I'll do the wave, but I'm not going to do the wave if it's like a 7-1 game in the 8th inning, right? You might get me in on a wave in a playoff game, like if we're playing the Dodgers, in a playoff game and there's a lot on the line, you might get me swept up in the moment. I mean, you might even be with somebody that'll snap the brown and brown guy's eye patch. If you just I wouldn't do that, but if that's the kind of fired up I'd have to be to get to that point,
So it sounds like so for the second point, it sounds like you don't feel like you have the need to control what they do and you don't feel like they're somehow going to control you. And the third and final point is, and that's what I think you discussed with the sheriff was, do you feel at any point that either your security physically, your family's security, or your future income, your livelihood is at risk?
No, I mean, that old boy would stick out in Wardsville, something painful. You know what I mean? If that old boy driving down Falcon Lane, he drives a car. First of all, that'd stick out down Wardsville. Two, I mean, the last old boy I seen in Wardsville without socks was just a hillbilly and barefoot, the old traditional, like people's custom of just not wearing shoes at all. So, I mean, and I think you do come off masculine if you can tell that you don't wear shoes, period. I mean, that's a tough old way to go about it.
Yeah,
Senator Nasheed, I'll call you back in a second. We're making fun of your charter school pals right now. Nice of Jamila to call. My people's traditions are to really not wear shoes anyhow. Now, I have boots on, but I also have socks because, I didn't go to charter school. John, I got to say, though, there's a rumor that's been floating around today.
Yes, sir.
And it is that because everybody knows that the very, very, very conservative WashU, the bastion of conservative thought here, the trainer of the abortion doctors, the intellectual heft and legal sponsor of the charter schools, WashU, that you actually went to WashU.
I can confirm that rumor is true.
I respect so much you admit that. So let me ask you this. You're one of the more likable people that I know. How in the hell did you go to that elitist WashU and come out this damn likable?
Well, I mean, and for context too, while we're contesting here, and this, Scott, I'm just a simple Spanish Lake hoodlum. But not only did I go to the elite Washington University, the School of Woke, But after that, I moved to Chesterfield. So right here, I mean, and I hate to confess this to you, but I'm damn near a cul-de-sac right now.
Oh shit! I hope they turn around for you.
Yeah. So I mean, it feels good to kind of let some of that stuff out. But yeah, we turned out a few people, and it's death by fire. And hey, I just used the wrong metaphor. See, that shows that I'm not an election. There's no such thing as death by fire, I guess, unless you're at the stake.
Hell yeah, so there's some witches that would beg to differ with you, I think.
But Scott, when you go back to the security part, it's also the fact that over your left shoulder, if folks look to the right of the screen, like Hank Williams Jr. has that line of "I have seen my name at the top of the page." So I mean, for folks who, I've had folks text me before and be like, "Hey, did you see somebody criticize Scott about whatever issue?" And it's like, if you would know the type of opponents that Scott has had over the years, like, come on, man.
Well, you just kind of over time, and that's what Mark really taught me was, if you're going to matter, people are going to complain. And the best way you don't matter is nobody complains. But and also, I've got to feel, I mean, if you're going to have somebody gunning for you, you kind of don't want a Navy SEAL that probably is marksmanship. You kind of want a quite skinny, sockless California weirdo. Yeah. I mean, I just figured if I was getting my ass whipped by California, it'd be at Burger Smokehouse or something over in Montauk County. You know what I mean? Yeah. But anyhow, well, do you have an advice? Let's say Kelton runs afoul of maybe the public school people, like, the men that carry themselves like men that, know how to tackle. What advice would you give Kelton?
Well, the first one is I would just go through the checklist that we talked about before. Yep. I don't think Kelton needs the approval of anybody on any side of the charter school issue.
Probably right,
I don't
Kelton?
think Kelton knows that.
Is that right, Kelton?
I don't think.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And he doesn't feel a need to either control them, or he doesn't have a fear that they might control him or he might control them. And then third, I don't think Kelton's going to worry that somebody's going to jump him in a back alley. And I don't think Kelton worries that because of some internet troll attacks, the Missouri Times is going out of business tomorrow.
Yeah, if that were the case, it would have happened some time ago. That's true.
Absolutely.
Well, John, I sure appreciate it. I'm sorry about the WashU thing. I didn't mean to out you.
It's okay.
But
we all have our past, and we all deal with some of the decisions we've made.
Go online, get this book. I'm gonna tell you. There's two reasons to get this book, right? Reason number A is at some point in your life, if you matter at all, you're going to deal with some level of people on the internet giving you grief, right? Now, I'm generally somewhat of an asshole, so it really is hard to get me emotional. But that comes through years of dealing with stuff. And so you're going to, the only way you don't deal with the thing this book would touch on is if you really don't matter in any way at all, period. Number two, if you have this book, you're going to look smart. So let's say you're at the Capitol and you're working. Let's say you're chief of staff, right? And your office is kind of in the front lobby. What you want to do with this book here, the spine is kind of small. So you want to kind of slide this out on the end where you could put the book. You get your little, let's say that's a little tall. You have a bookend like this Whitey Herzog here, bookend. And so what you want to do here with this bookend, put your bookend like way back here. That way folks can see this and see the name. And all of a sudden, you have a conversation starter. You look like you're smart. You know what you're doing. This book is kind of a calling card and a piece of art as much as it is something you'd read. So do yourself a favor. Go online. I got 2 of these already. It was not expensive. Get you this book right here. Read it, because actually, if you haven't dealt with this, if you've dealt with this up before, when you read this book, it's like, yeah, I remember that. You know how to relate. But number 2, put this book where folks can see it. Instant conversation starter by anybody that knows anything about politics in the state. Instant conversation starter. Number 1. And number 2, this is the absolute way to where you look like you kind of have the inside, even if you haven't been in the Capitol that long. If you look like you were smart to figure out how to buy this book, people are going to know, and go to johncombest.com every morning, just like I do, because it is truly, you could spend 15 minutes, which would be a lengthy deuce, but still, it's more enjoyable reading material. You can read all the headlines. You can get you around the paywall. That's why I like the best, the paywall thing. How you kind of navigate the paywalls. And you will be totally caught up when you start the day. There's nothing you're going to hear at Coffee Zone that's going to catch you by surprise if you've spent 15 minutes on John Combest. And it's very good for newspapers like ours and stuff, because it's a way to get to the most informed readership about state politics in the state. It is a pipeline right to them because they've been going to it for 20 years now, right?
Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate
We're
that.
old
I
as
appreciate
hell.
your friendship.
What that means, damn. But I appreciate it, John. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sorry about the WashU thing. Hope it turns around for you.
All right, we'll talk soon. Take
Bye.
care, Scott.
Oh, you're a good old boy. I like John. Seriously, this book. I'm not kidding you. If you put this, like, where are we gonna put this, Kelton? We're show people how it's done here. Why don't we go like right here? That's what we do. We'll put it like right here. There we go. Because they were put by Jennifer. We got Jennifer Bukowski's coffee mug there, so you can kind of see it. I like that. You like that? Look good.
I think it looked great.
Good deal. John is a smart dude. I'm telling you. Go to John Combest. Go to johncombest.com. Skim the headlines. You're going to see 2 or 3 that's good. He's got a way of it's funny. It kind of tweaks some people. He'll take your headline and he'll change it a little bit. It's his personality. It's his him having fun with it. So go with it. Don't get emotional. But he'll kind of give you the ins. You'll know. Sometimes his headline is more descriptive of what you're going to read than theirs because he doesn't have to go to AP style. It's a very, very good place to go read and find out what's happening in the world and in Missouri politics. You're going to love it. It is an outstanding place to go. Get caught up. Get looped in. JohnCombest.com. Outstanding place to go. Good dude, as you heard. Funny. Knows how to take a joke. Been a friend of mine for a long time. So let's let in a serious moment. I get it. There are people from the suburbs that love these charter school things. I also get it. Most of the people just want the crap load of money that comes with it for the campaigns. Totally understand you, get you. I'm from rural Missouri. There is no reason a rural Missouri person would be for this stuff, but I get it. You don't have to be so serious all the time. Everything's not a blood fight, but it is a little creepy when, obviously, seriously, I'm not trying to just have fun, but the guy's a little weird, right? He's probably not weird for like San Francisco or somewhere, but like for Wardsville, a little weird, right?
Oh, just a tad.
Just right. And listen, when you're in a back and forth, bringing up folks' kids, probably not the move, right? Because you sort of you look a little weird when you wear bow ties and no socks and you start knowing where people's kids are at. Maybe not your look. But again, I made the varsity team, so I guess I don't. There's a lot of things charter school people I can't relate to. You know what I'm saying? I should have worn my Neelyville High School Letterman jacket, right? So it's kind of hard for me to sometimes relate to those folks. But I also don't drink Starbucks. I don't drive a Prius. I don't drink out of a straw. I don't have to pull. I don't start my vehicle by pulling a rope chain. So a lot of those things I don't understand in life. But to each their own, right? Let me know tomorrow. Give me your questions. Howard, you got to go back and watch from the beginning. That's the only way to have it. So go back and check around today. We'll do tip sheet tomorrow. If you got a race you've got an opinion on, please DM me, text me, however you want. You guys know how to get a hold of me. I love your thoughts on, especially this, the statewide races. I kind of they're going to be. Those things break late and hard, and after the governor's race, it's kind of hard to get a lot of knowledge about them now. But the Senate race, I'd love your opinion. If you're in a place with a competitive state Senate race, would love anybody that's watching this take on it. DM me. We're going to put that together this afternoon. Love you guys. Thank you very much. Seriously, nobody's in danger. I'm pretty sure nobody's in danger. I've got some text already. Don't worry about it. I'm also, if that old boy can lick your simple hillbilly pal, he probably got it coming. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.